the gang called Gypsy.
Gang and they come and get Gypsy. Gang and they come and get Gypsy. Gang. I met a Gypsy. Gang. I met a Gypsy.
The Maxxis tyre for me, overall, is one of the best tyres, if not the best tyre I've ever ridden on.
Oh, I'm all about it. Man, most people don't know like how gnarly you guys grew up. Like you guys had a crazy upbringing in terms of, you want to talk about Aussie bogans. I don't even know if you could call you guys Aussie bogans.
Oh, probably not. But, you know, it's like, yeah, we grew up tough, but in the end of the day, like now, like I think about it way more now than what I ever did, like coming here. I think like if we didn't grow up that way, like so much shit would be way harder.
Yeah. Well, explain
Where,
to people that have
like,
never got a visual of how you guys grew up. It was fucking crazy. Like even when you were racing juniors to be so good, and like you'd always hear like, yeah, these guys like they just live fucking out the back,
out the back.
They live like way out the back, you know, and like Ty Simmons similar, but like maybe just fill people in on even like how you guys grew up, because it's an incredible story.
Yeah, like it's sort of like you don't ever forget about it, but it's like you live the type of moment where you are now, and you sort of like appreciate that it happened when you really think about it. But yeah, like when we grew up, we had like, not much. We had a generator for power, obviously like a long drop. Not many people would like live that way kind of thing. Our dad built our house, and there was like parts of it that weren't finished. He just had plastic on, and the front half
he built
was
it out
like finished
he built
off
it
with
out of
rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, rocks, and then like
so
trees
sick.
And shit that he like fell from like around the area. He's like, oh fuck, that'd be good for the house. Turn it into like the framing part of it. Built a ladder out of wood. Like, just did all his own unique sort of shit. You know, it was, I don't know. It'd be nice if he had the time to finish it off, but it's I go back to there to this day, and it's still the same as when we were living there. And like, I actually enjoy going back there because it brings back so many good memories. But like we didn't really have that much. So for us, we had a bike, a set of gear, helmet. We had a track, and that's pretty much all we did when we were young. You know, like just went out, burnt fuel, got bored, went out, burnt more fuel. It was pissing down rain, we were still bored, so we'd go out and burn fuel, you know, like it was just that type of thing. We were just fucking always doing that. You just don't realise really, like I remember being probably like 12 years old, just going to a friend's house, and then you walk into their bedroom, they flick the light on, you're like, fucking hell, that's pretty good. Like, go
Dude, I remember
there, play PlayStation.
I remember staying
Crazy.
there. I remember staying there like way back in the day, and Ross is like, oh, plug your phone in for a minute because the Jenny will go off in like 10 minutes or whatever. It was whatever the time was. It was like, oh, we've only got 10 minutes left of power, so just like plug your phone in because you'll need it in the morning or whatever. And I was just like, what? But man, that place is so sick. Like I remember I went back there, like it was ages ago now, but like even maybe like 5 years ago I went there. Actually, it was when Rat bought that YZ250 two-banger that you borrowed off me for a little bit.
Yeah.
And he took it back to Tassie for me, remember? And, And he had it, and I went, so I drove up from Hobart to pick it up, and I walked in there, and Rat, who's Jed's dad, he's like, yeah, she hasn't changed much, has she? I was sitting down having a cup of tea in the lounge room, and he's like, you remember this? I'm like, mate, it looks like the day I walked out of here when I was like 18, like, you know, like it had been 10 years since I'd been in the place. But man, it's such a unique and awesome place. Like, I nearly feel like you need to build a big fence around it so no one ever touches it, you know? Like, it's so sick. Like, the place is unreal.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's crazy though. Like, I remember, like I said, being young, and then you're almost like scared to invite your friends over because you don't know what they're going to think of it, you know? And then like they come in and it's so different that they actually like enjoy it. They're like,
Oh,
fuck, this
1000%.
is like pretty cool, you know? So like we'd always like be scared to invite friends, but then the ones that we did invite, they'd be back every fucking weekend and like bring their bikes, they'd ride. Like it's just crazy the way like it happened, like being from one extreme to the other where you're like, oh fuck, they're going to hate this place. So I'm like scared to invite them. But then they just like get dropped off for like, in school holidays, we used to have kids that would come and stay for like 2 weeks straight, 3 weeks straight, just get dropped off with their fuel can and their bikes and just stay. And I think, to be honest, the parents used to hate it because we'd do so much riding, they'd get their bikes back and they're just fucked.
Be worn out.
Just shit everywhere. They're like, oh, why did we do that, you know?
It was so funny. Like, I remember the first time I ever went there, like I walked around the house and I was like, you guys must have been out riding or something. And I showed up. I walked around the front and Ross was riding for Honda at the time. And I walked around the front of the house and there's just like 4 factory Hondas just like leant up against the side of the house. And you boys were like out in the bush somewhere with like a backhoe, like trying to shape up a jump or something. I was just like, man, this is unreal. So sick.
No, it was good times. I just remember we never had that much. So like all the guys that would come like and drop their kids off, I remember they'd just come with like a 60-litre drum of diesel for our generator and shit like that, just for looking after their kids and stuff, you know, like when you think
Keep
back
the power
to that,
going,
it's pretty crazy. Yeah, exactly. And then like we got sponsored one year from the local petrol station. They give us like a 44-gallon drum full of fuel, and like Dad would mix it up for us and we'd go ride. And then it lasted us, I think, 2 weeks, and we took it back empty, and they're like, fucking hell, what are you doing? Like, we just
how you burning that much fuel?
Exactly. We just rode flat out. So
it was so funny. And then like
yeah.
I remember you had that little shed down the road or whatever, and I lent, but when when Jed was like between rides or whatever, he borrowed that YZ 250 of mine. That was in your parents' shed, and I've actually still got that bike. And I lent it to Jed for a few weeks or whatever, and it come back, and the thing was like brand new. And Rat goes to me, oh, I've done this. He's like this list of all this stuff that he'd fixed on it because he'd like got it and he had all the parts or whatever, and gave it back to me. I was like, man, you can borrow this thing whenever you like.
Can you borrow this bike again in 6 months?
He loves it. Like that's the same thing. Like he would always do as much as he could for like the kids that come and stayed and stuff.
Definitely.
Like if they busted up their bike, he'd be trying to fix it for them and stuff. So like I think everyone loved him for that reason. Just being the way he is, he's fucking I don't know,
shit
he's
and just doing whatever.
Dude, I remember
just living his best life.
Dude, I remember like we literally grew up on the opposite end of Australia. Like I grew up in Cairns, you guys were in Tassie. But like we used to, I remember the boys would come back like Toddy and Jats and Wade Hunter and like Toddy and they'd all come back from the junior nationals, and then like we'd just hear stories of your old boy and like how much of a fucking lord he was.
Biggest legend ever.
But it was just constant, and then like everywhere you went, you're like, fucking the boys down in Tassie, like they got no power, they just fucking ride all day, like it's just this crazy. And then you boys were just shredding. It was like, I just think that's so cool because you can't get that shit back, and it's like all the stuff that you would have learned. And like it's cool you say that, man, because when you do come from a family and you don't have what other kids have, you do get, there is like a self-conscious thing that goes on to where you're like, oh, we're different, or we're poor, or we don't have this, or we don't have that. But then, you're right. Like,
but you had so much other shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you had the rattler to fix all your stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know how he put up with us when we were growing up, but he was like, I don't know, he copped a lot of shit from Ross and I, and then like we'd just, I don't know, I could go on so much with the stories about him, but it's not like you go to motocross and like no one knows Rat.
Everyone knows Rat.
You can go to like, you can go to the Australian motocross and you're like, oh, you know Rat? Yeah. Good bloke, boys. Oh yeah, he fixed this for me one time. You remember what he did there, or done something? Like, it's just funny.